All right, today we're doing sum and difference. So talking about the sum or addition and subtraction formulas on your trig identity sheet. So if you look here is going to be these ones right here that we're talking about today. So if I go over here, here are the formulas. Again, these are on your formula sheet, so don't worry about writing them down or copying them. They're going to be different depending on if you're adding or subtracting and if you're doing sine or cosine. And then here are the tangent ones as well. So we'll get into some examples. Okay, so the questions today are going to ask you to find exact values. That means leave it with a square root of 3 or a square root of 2 or that kind of thing in it. You don't want to get a decimal, so don't use a calculator. You're going to get the wrong answer. You can use the trig value sheet or the unit circle sheet that you've had before. It is this one that has all the values on it. Or if you really wanted to, you could draw triangles and figure it out yourself. That's a little more work than you have to do. So this one, there's lots of different options you can do. I'm going to rewrite this as the cosine of 30 plus 45, but you could rewrite it as any other combination of two numbers added together. I would recommend trying to get like 30s, 45s, and 60s because those are the nice, easy ones you have on your unit circle, but you don't have to. You also get to do it as subtraction. You could do something like 135, subtract something to get 75. That would work as well, as long as you get two nice values in there. And then we're going to use the addition formula because I have 30 plus 45. So you have cosine of A, I'll label this here. What is what? This is going to be your A value. This will be your B value. So cosine of A, or cosine of 30, times the cosine of B minus sine of A, sine of B. And now use that unit circle sheet to find the actual values. So cosine of 30 is root 3 over 2. Cosine of 45 is root 2 over 2. Subtract a half times root 2 over 2. And now you're simplifying. So here when you're multiplying two things together, you just want to multiply straight across. You get root 6 over 4 minus root 2 over 4. You can combine these to get root 6 minus root 2 over 4. And at this point, you're done. You can't go any farther. So this would be your exact value for this function. All right, so here we have cosine of pi over 12. Same idea, it's just going to be a little bit more complicated to figure out what two things add together or two things subtract because it's fractions and it's radians. But I'm going to do cosine of pi over 4 minus pi over 6. How I get this, I'll write it down and erase it, is if you think of this, you have pi over 12, right? So you could do like 4 pi over 12 minus 3 pi over 12, and that would give you 1 pi over 12 left. Did I do that right? So then this one would simplify to pi over 3 minus pi over 4. Or you can do, okay, I got this one, you'd get your 3 pi over 12 minus 2 pi over 12 gives you pi over 4 minus pi over 6 if you simplify. Either one, you could do pi over 3 minus pi over 4 or pi over 4 minus pi over 6. It doesn't matter, you'll get the same answer. So that's how I think of it. Like try and do it in terms of your common denominator first, so 12, and then go back through and simplify. So the formula we're subtracting now, we have cosine of pi over 4, cosine of pi over 6, plus sine of pi over 4, sine of pi over 6. And again, you're still going to use your sheet to fill these out. So you get root 2 over 2 times root 3 over 2 plus root 2 over 2 times a half to get root 6 over 4 plus root 2 over 4, or root 6 plus root 2 over 4. And there's your final answer. So this one we're going backwards. So it gives you the expanded out form and you want to figure out what is it. So you're trying to match which of the formulas it is. If I go back to this sheet, you're trying to figure out which of these is it and then go backwards. So if you look at this, it's going to be the sine addition formula. So you can rewrite this as sine of 20 plus 40, which simplifies to the sine of 60. And then using your sheet, you'll get root 3 over 2 as your final answer. The last one here. So we want to figure out what we can do with this. So first of all, this almost looks like a cofunction identity, but not quite. If we go back to verifying, I'll come over here. So this is pi over 2 minus u or minus x. This one is x minus pi over 2. So I'm going to factor out a -1 and get tangent of -1. And that's going to switch the signs. We'll get pi over 2 minus x equals negative cotangent of x. So then if we go back to the sheet and look at these even odd ones, negative cotangent, the negative comes outside. So you get negative tangent of pi over 2 minus x. Look at your cofunction, and this will become negative cotangent of x equals negative cotangent of x. And you've verified your identity. So again, check on Schoology to see if the homework is different. If you have questions, let us know. All right.